January 11th, 5:53 p.m. Central Standard Time. You know, this Alaska Airlines little mishap, people on that airplane, to include the crew, got real lucky. And I've not really heard the magic question asked. Of course, maybe somebody, maybe a journalist ain't smart enough to be asking this question of the FAA and of the federal transportation people that are investigating this. So this plane actually had a history with a pressurization problem. And the brain surgeons evidently at Alaska Airlines decided, oh, you can't fly this plane over water, but you can fly it over land. Well, that's what brain surgeon come up with that fantastic idea? So there was never an altitude restriction put on this airplane? Is that what we're being told? No altitude restriction. I was in the military. Of course, you have to fly airplanes in the military sometimes with what you have. And you may fly an airplane with a restricted altitude because of a problem. Or you may fly that airplane for a one-time flight with restricted altitude to a maintenance facility without passengers. And then the other question is, this plane had a history with pressurization problems, and it's not that old of an airplane. It's like, oh, well, let's just keep putting passengers on it. So the other question is did they ever fly the plane with just a crew on it? With some technicians on board to see what it was doing in the air. Versus putting basically a max passenger crew, filled all the seats up on that airplane just about, That wasn't too smart, was it? But they got lucky. I can tell you that right now, boys. If she'd have been up there at about 34,000 feet and that door would have come off, they would have been at cruise altitude. They'd have took that seatbelt light off. Them stewardesses would have been handing out food and beverage, and a lot of people takes their seatbelts off, and you know what would have happened? It would have been catastrophic. Multiple lives lost. And maybe even the aircraft. Maybe even the aircraft. I mean, what happens if the flight crew lost some of their headphones as it was? What if they'd all lost their headphones? Then what? How do you communicate? Which brings up another question. Are there any spare headphones on them aircraft and the flight deck in case something like this did happen? Okay, well, when the pressurization equalizes and you get an oxygen mask on, you might get to your spare headphones, huh? See, I don't know the answer to any of these questions, but they should have had an altitude restriction on that airplane, and it probably should have been checked out without passengers. And then what about the crosstalk with other carriers with this kind of airplane? Was there any communications done there? And since this was a new airplane, was this communicated to the feds, Like, look, we got this airplane here, ain't got many hours on it, and this is happening. Be advised. Yeah, they dropped the ball on this, but somebody got lucky, okay? Hope you enjoyed.